Okay. So this is the last session of today. Thank you guys all for attending 2024 Protect Our Water Conference. As you can see, you should be at Autodesk Construction Cloud presentation. I'm going to introduce Joel here, who's going to be the presenter. He's a certified construction manager with over 15 years of experience in the construction industry. In that span, he has managed multiple projects on behalf of PART and DOT. Joel has worked extensively with the executive leadership teams on helping deliver the projects on time and on budget. He currently works as a construction manager for HDOT's H1 eastbound widening project. He is also brings extensive knowledge of multiple electronic construction platforms, all aimed to create more efficiencies in the construction project. So without further ado, please welcome Joel.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you for having me. It's when they asked me to do this presentation, I was gladly accepted, and I see some familiar faces out in the crowd, and glad to be here. Just want to start with that. So today we will be focusing on the HDOT's e-construction platform, which is Autodesk Construction Cloud, and its application of the BMPs and how we're kind of managing, tracking, sorting, and doing all things BMP within the ACC parameters. So Autodesk Construction Cloud, for those of you that don't know what it is, it's actually it's a cloud-based construction platform that connects teams, data, workflows through all phases of construction. And it's also what HDOT kind of uses for its construction management overall, right? For project management, I should say. So today we're going to be kind of looking at what the BMP reporting requirements in ACC, updates to some of the ACC BMP forms that some of you may not be familiar with or using. And then lastly, kind of focusing on some e-construction consistency goals that we're looking at kind of achieving universally throughout all the projects. That includes kind of the file structuring, the use of issues, and then lastly, kind of tying it together with meetings, just meaning like we can show sort of the capabilities of what you're able to do within ACC. So currently, Autodesk is implementing the BMP data through use of the forms, right? So some of you are familiar with the use of these forms, and the overall kind of goal of the whole thing is to track, document, report, and enforce BMP compliance throughout all phases of construction. I kind of wanted to step back and give you guys sort of a why behind the what. And I mean, really the why is the reason behind all of this is we want to make sure that we're in compliance with the specifications or special provisions for the projects. And then looking further is, we're going to start implementing the use of these dashboards that are going to track the projects, kind of looking at being able to pull data from all the projects. So this is kind of more for, the resident engineers for projects, or the, project management, contract administration teams, to be able to kind of see which projects are using these applications properly and which are not. And then also kind of looking at the overall sort of, whether or not the contracts are meeting those BMP deficiency requirements, if the BMPs are getting closed out in a timely manner, and that sort of thing too. And this is just sort of like a, it's under construction, so this isn't a final product or anything yet, but so the kind of goal here is to be able to have the REs, the project management, contract administration, they would be able to kind of filter and set these dashboards up how they would like. And you can kind of see the link on the right, or on the right side of the screen there, you have links to projects that are using forms, links to projects that are not using the forms. So the goal is to get, that list of not using forms smaller and lower. And again, this is just an example, so if you see your project on here, just kind of, don't worry about it. The whole point is to just try to get everyone kind of using these things. And again, it kind of shows what the capabilities of Autodesk is in general and kind of what the goals are, right, to get there eventually, is to have everybody doing this correct. And again, you could also kind of filter this to show where BMP's deficiencies aren't quite being closed out properly. So you would, be able to see like, oh, we have all these open deficiencies that have been open for X amount of time, and maybe like, it could enable REs to say, well, why aren't we issuing liquidated damages, or like at least provide some kind of reason to why these BMP deficiencies are remaining open. So kind of getting started here within ACC, I know most of you have kind of more or less used this application, maybe some of you haven't, but once you create your project, usually we would use like a standard template to create the project, and then you would actually be able to migrate in people that have already been in the system. So the first thing is kind of like setting up the project and then adding the people into the system that will be using the software. So once you add your members in, then kind of a key thing worth highlighting here is you have to enter their roles correctly. So different roles that are assigned within the system kind of give a different tier of information that they're able to access. So if you have BMP auditor, for example, they would only be able to see certain things within the system. Now, on the flip side of that, if you were to give access to, let's say, a contractor as a administrator level administrative level of rights into the system, then they would actually be able to see things that they're not supposed to see. So it's kind of an important piece, is sort of just making sure that you're noting who has access to what. So when you're assigning those roles, it's kind of an important piece of it. That's kind of just more of like a global ACC thing to note, not necessarily related to just BMPs. So kind of wanted to do a refresher on some of the key updates that are involved with the weekly inspection report forms in ACC. Again, I know some of you guys are using the forms, maybe some of you are not. So this could be kind of a dual purpose kind of look at. So here we have, I just was kind of trying to show where these forms are located, right, in ACC. So under your files there on the left side, you would click files, then you would click, forms. So you click your forms button, and then that'll take you into all your forms, and you should see BMP weekly report in there as kind of like a template. And that's where you would select that, and you can either kind of create a report. Use a laser pointer. So you can create your form up here, and then you would just kind of title it, BMP weekly inspection or monthly compliance report, or whichever you're going with there. So next you would start to fill in the data on the form, right? So some of this is just refresher for everybody, but you fill in your date of the report, the permit number, project name, project number, and then kind of an important piece would be what type of report this is, right? So in this case, I showed a weekly report. You would also have your event report, which is rain event. So I know a lot of you guys are probably experiencing that today, as am I. So in a rain event, you have to get it within the next day, if it's over 0.25 inches. And so yeah, just kind of going through the form, sort of imagine just scrolling down in the form. That's kind of what we're doing here. And then under the actual devices, so you Most projects that I see do this, they actually fill in all of their devices on their project into this form, because then you can actually just copy and paste it onto the next report. So that's kind of like the easy way, and then under this column here, whether or not there's action required, that's sort of where it'll be like, you know, if the device is okay, you just leave it as N, you change it to yes, you know, as needed. And this is kind of just an example of what one looks like when it's filled in. So you can see here, like where there was an action required, we also added in a comment of what the issue was that we noted in the BMP inspection. So this part of the form, I wanted to kind of make sure that everybody understands, because this is actually a new section that was added to this form. I would say the best way to find out if you're using the correct one is look for this yellow row here. And then if you see a yellow row within, I think it's on like the 5th page of that template form, then you should have the right one. But what this table is doing is you're basically pulling down all the data from above on the form to kind of put all your deficiencies into one area of the form. Now, another thing worth noting on this part of the form is you'll see that you have a date corrected column and a corrective action description. So I think in a lot of the projects I kind of looked at when I was researching this, we're not using this form. The other form didn't have this data, so in other words, after you would do your weekly inspection, you would do the form, and then you would just submit it like that, and it would just have the deficiencies. So you wouldn't have the corrective action. So it's kind of like an open report. You're not really getting you're not getting all the information. When were these things closed? So that's a way to kind of look at this part of it. Is we also want to incorporate when the deficiencies are closed, and then that way it's, you know, you've got a fully closed loop on the deficiency, right? And then this is just an example of kind of what this part of the report looks like. So for this one, this particular example, I did have this on here. So you see that there's a 5/1/24 of a date found, right? This was actually a 5/8/24 report. So another thing that we're doing is if you didn't close a BMP deficiency before you did your next weekly, you would actually be pulling that data to this form as well, because basically you want to account for all BMP deficiencies, right? That's kind of the whole point of this thing is we want to make sure all of them are captured. And you know, in this case, because there was one that basically wasn't closed within the allotted time, you would also probably want to enter some kind of information at the bottom of the form where there's a comment section, and you could kind of jot in there the reasoning, right? It's kind of like you're saying maybe you issued a LD or something for that particular thing, and you just want to add that comment, or you know, maybe there was extenuating circumstances where the contractor couldn't quite get that get it corrected in time, and you're willing to grant them an exception based on X, Y, and Z. You just kind of want to make sure that all the data is in these forms. So yeah, and then again, this is just sort of showing that this part of the form was all filled out. So basically, the way you can look at this is the date of this particular BMP weekly report was 5/8/24. So that's when the data was first entered into the form. And then you would have your contractor, you know, making all the BMP deficiency corrections, and then you have to come back into the form before you had submitted it, right? So you come back in and you notate what days they actually made the corrective action work. So in this case, it was the next day, 5/9, including that one from 5/1. So it kind of closes the loop as far as it encapsulates what happened that entire week. It's not just necessarily like the day of the inspection. So you're kind of closing the entire loop, if that makes sense. Also just reminding you that with these BMP report, or with these forms, you also have to upload your photos, right? So you would have the deficiency photo, and then you would also have the corrective action photo, which is typically being generated by the contractor, right? So you're kind of giving them the deficiency, and then they're coming in with the corrective action photo and asking you to close the BMP deficiency. So when you go to actually submit your report, you should be including and attaching all of the photos, both photos, right? And just kind of showing a quick example of where these are, or of how to upload photos if you don't know. So under the forms, I've actually got, in this case, that particular BMP inspection weekly report open, and then I'm able to add references here. So you would click your little add references icon, and then go in and be able to upload all. You can select multiple photos here, and then you just upload them through here. And then this is just what the last page of that report looks like. Once you've got all your information in there, your corrective action, your BMP deficiencies, all of it's in there, including the photos, then you would come down. And like I mentioned before, if you had to provide some sort of comment or remark based on, having to explain something to someone at the higher level, why something wasn't closed in time or whatever, this is sort of that area where you could add those comments in. And then, and then you just name, title, sign, and date the form, and then you would hit submit. Is the final step for this weekly form here. And again, just highlighting that once you submit the form, it actually locks it for editing. So before you hit submit, make sure that you have all that information kind of into that form, including both the deficiencies and corrective action work. And then if you do accidentally submit it before, you can actually, you can undo that and then still be able to edit it. And then after you submit it, you would print, export the form, and submit for the e-sign to the RE, or however that part's handled. I know different REs kind of do it differently. Some like to do the e-sign, some like to do an approval directly out of ACC. So you just work that out with your resident engineer on exactly how they want to go about doing that part. And then a quick look at the BMP monthly compliance reports, which, as I understand it, the monthly reports are required under the MS4 permits. So it's applicable to Oahu, maybe parts of Maui that are operating under the MS4. Am I misspeaking on that? That sounds right? Yeah, okay. And then, so this might be a little bit more pertaining to those folks that are in these areas, but we do also have to do a BMP monthly compliance report. Basically what this is doing is it's showing all of that table with that yellow row. It's pulling all of those weekly informations and putting it into one monthly report that just shows all of your BMP deficiencies for the month, all of the corrective actions, and dates corrected and all that. So you're kind of just generating this report that shows that. I did add a note here at the bottom. So we have the third-party BMP inspection, which a lot of you guys are aware of. It's sort of I just wanted to add that it's a separate thing to what we're talking about here. The third-party inspection, how we do it on our projects usually is we kind of use that to generate our weekly report, but it's sort of done in conjunction with, right? Because you still are required to turn in that weekly report, but we like to do the walkthrough with the third-party inspector so that we're on the same page and we have the same items we're tracking. But it's just a completely separate thing to what we're talking about. Just want to add that note. And then again, just kind of, this just shows the basic data that's being added into the form itself. Pretty straightforward. And then as far as just BMP general inspection frequency requirements, most of you guys are aware of this, but the weekly BMP inspection is supposed to be completed every 7 calendar days with the contractor. And the report is, again, generated and submitted every 7 calendar days. And then rain events within 24 hours of over a 1/4 inch of rain. depending on your spec. I mean, that's the standard spec. If there's a special provision that changes that, then it would obviously be a little different. And then the monthly compliance reports are to be completed within 2 days of, 2 working days within the end of the month. So, and this is just a kind of a visual that shows what I just mentioned, adding in small notes of, you know, the monthly compliance forms are under the MS4 permit, so that would be Oahu for sure, and then maybe parts of Maui as well. Jumping in a little bit to sort of the e-construction, I kind of wanted to go over some of like the consistency goals that we're trying to meet across all of our projects here. One being the general file structure, and then issues, and again, just meetings to kind of tie it all together. So general file structure, I've looked at a few projects and I noticed that everyone's kind of doing this differently all over the place. And just trying to generate that consistency. So I think the ideal place is if we locate the files, under the general folder here, where again, general folder means that the contractor and HDOT has access to this folder, right? Under the construction management folder, the contractor does not have access to that. So I like to put these in a place where we're all kind of in agreement with, you know, it's full transparency, right, between all working parties. But you have your BMP folder, and then usually I like to set up a monthly folder, the rain gauge folder, which that's information that's usually pulled out of Headlight, right? Those of you that know that one. And then weekly reports. So it's just pretty straightforward where to put these reports. General kind of file structure, naming conventions. So the example on the left here with the weekly report example, I think that's actually the better way than the one shown on the right. But reason is I like to have it in order by date, right? So then so if you're putting a date kind of before your naming structure, then it'll categorize it because it sorts it by name, right? So we're kind of going down the line of, you can see straightforward of when these BMP reports, weekly reports were generated. And then for the monthly report examples, you can do it like this, but I don't love it because, as you can see, it jumps around. So I've got April 2024, August 2024, December, because it's just going in alphabetical order, right? So it's kind of better to put like that date at the beginning, just easier to sort through later. I wanted to talk for a minute about issues. Maybe show of hands, anyone using issues in ACC to track BMPs in the room? Nobody. Okay, wow. In my head when I would practice this, I was like, all right, I see a few hands, but I guess not. So I want to talk about issues because it's actually, I think it's a really powerful tool, right? And what we're doing with issues is on the projects I'm a part of, we're using them to track the deficiencies with the contractor. That's our like ping pong match of how we're looking at these issues, or looking at the BMP deficiencies. We're kind of getting them the deficiency photos, and then we put it into their court through the issue module, and then they're able to actually upload the photo in there showing when they fixed it. So it sort of just streamlines the process, at least between us and the contractor, right? I know the forms are kind of a separate thing because that's more of our tool to sort of report out all of this information. But I just wanted to kind of go into this a little bit. And again, the issues can be really easily tracked, referenced, monitored in just about any location in ACC. So you can link issues all over the place, and you don't have to just use it for BMPs. We use it for all things. Basically, any issue you come across on your project, you can tie it to that. The creating of an issue. So if you go into the left tab there with under the build in ACC, you'll see issues. You would hit your create issue icon, and then this form on the right will pop up where you start populating information in. It's pretty straightforward, but you can see there's a lot of metadata you can enter into these lines. showing you like BMP, in this case, BMP deficiency, and then you can do a type code on it, BMP deficiency, and that's just metadata that you can pull later to print out reports and stuff. It's a pretty handy tool. So I'd highly recommend that everyone, if you guys didn't hear anything else I've said today, or care about, I think issues is a good one to really like zero in on, because it'll save you guys time on your projects. And then this is just more or less the same of the form. You kind of have to scroll down, and there's just a ton of data you can enter into these issues. Wanted to highlight there's a tab that says assign to. So this is where, you know, if I create a BMP deficiency of a certain device in a certain location at a certain place at a certain time, all that information's in here, and I've uploaded a photo to it. Now I just need to ping it over to somebody to close it out. So you would find out who on the contractor side is going to be designated as that person. You would switch the ball in court to them essentially, and then it sends it over their way, and they'll get a little ping or pong, whatever. They'll get something that tells them it's in their court to close this deficiency. So it's a pretty powerful thing. Once you've filled out all your information, then you would just click your create button here, and you've created an issue. The reason I kind of wanted to show you this is there is actually a report that we're kind of trying to work on a way to sort of help streamline some of these processes, and we think that through the issues module, this might be where we're able to do this. You know, it's a work in progress, but you can see here, this is actually a printout of a report of an issue. I can print out an issue report over an entire month by sorting it by the BMP. So in other words, I could print out a month's worth of issues, and it'll show me all the BMP deficiencies, and then it'll give me nice little side-by-side photos. This is a direct printout from one of the project I'm running, and you can see here. So the photo on the left here is my inspector's photo showing the BMP deficiency. It has a little label on it showing what the issue was, and then the contractor actually came in and uploaded his corrective action photo. So, you know, it's just a way to streamline the process again. And, you know, you have all these tools available in these econ platforms, and so why not kind of put them to the best use possible, right? And then kind of the last piece of it, I just wanted to show you, like, once I create those issues, right, and again, we're creating one per deficiency. So it's a little bit humbug, but imagine, like, you know, if you have, let's say you have 7 deficiencies you found on your weekly walk, I would create 7 issues. It sounds a little bit tiresome, because then you're also doing your form on the side, right? But again, it's just an easier way to track it, because if not, you're emailing photos to the contractor, and you're like, email them back, you know, fix it, email it back, oh, there's a smudge, I can't, you know, or whatever. Like, this is just kind of an easier way to track all of that. And I think part of the econ goal in general is to get out of your inbox and into the platform, right? You know, just everyone gets enough emails as it is. But, so yeah, I just wanted to show you real quick in meetings, right? We have, in the meetings I'm a part of, we typically will have a section that just quickly touches on BMPs. So, you know, it's more like to track the higher level if there's stuff that isn't getting closed out and all that. But you can very quickly and easily go and link these issues directly to your agenda in ACC. So I basically, before every meeting, I go in and I just take a quick look and double check to see what open BMP items there were from this past week's inspection, and I can attach all those right in there, and that way I can quickly see exactly where we're at with these issues, and if something's reoccurring or whatever, like, you could have it there for a discussion, real quick discussion in the meeting. So basically how you do that is there's a little 3 dot next to the when you create an item in ACC in your meeting template, where if you click that, you can actually add reference files, and then you could add in issue reference files, and in this case, you know, just showing that you can add multiple at one time. You don't have to go in there and click and click and click. You just go through and select, 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 hit your add issues icon, and then you would, this is kind of like what it looks like after. So I have all my references added here under my BMP deficiencies for that week, and then I can have the tab open, and this is kind of live time too, like maybe one of these issues gets closed between me setting up this agenda and the meeting, and I would see that here, and I would say, okay, it looks like we've closed one, or these are the remaining ones, whatever. It's just showing like a higher level of kind of what you can do with these issues. And again, think of it like the issues are an easier way to track the BMPs with the contractor. Then you kind of take that data and you apply it to your BMP forms. So, and then you're sending out your weekly and monthly forms at the end of it. Did want to highlight also that if you guys aren't aware, we do have the wiki site, which is available for, you can probably get more in-depth versions of what I'm saying here. It's a really good platform to be able to go into and just kind of like understand, or find, if not just BMPs, you can go in there and find processes on pretty much all things, a lot of the processes within ACC. So hdot.wiki. And yeah, that's kind of the end. Just wanted to highlight if you guys do have questions, maybe that you don't feel comfortable asking here, you can always send an email to bmphighwaysoahu@stormwaterhawaii.com, or if it's related to ACC type of questions, you can always send our team, econ@qrc.com, an email as well. So I went a little bit quicker than I did when I practiced this. I probably, didn't blubber on as much. But any questions? Anybody? Yes, sir. Yes.
So I guess my impression of econ, basically it feels more like Headlight is more inspector focused versus Autodesk is more for the clerical and the engineer. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is could there be some integration with Headlight and Autodesk to import the photos and maybe automate it there? Because it feels like if we implement this way, then the inspectors are going to have to use Autodesk more versus more native to Headlight.
That's true, yeah. That's actually a good question. So yeah, he's asking if everyone didn't hear, since we are using Headlight, which is another e-construction platform to do all of our, kind of general inspection reports, progress payments, that sort of thing, why can't we just be able to kind of use that data to import something from Headlight into ACC? That's kind of what you're saying, right? Or something, yeah. Something to streamline it, because it is two different things that you're having to do. So that is something that we're kind of trying to look at right now. Like I said, I know all this stuff I just went through, there's a lot to do. And as I was putting the presentation together, to be honest with you, because we have to do it too, I was kind of like, wow, this is a lot of information that you're having to put in for this release. So we are looking to streamline the whole entire process. Yes, sir. Errol.
So, we get a new worker, the inspectors, and, number one, and all that, and they haven't used this software. Are you guys gonna, do classes on it?
Yeah, I know on the H.wiki site I mentioned, we do have trainings and stuff set up in there, but we'll probably have to do some updated versions of those. So I think in talking with our team, we were looking at doing some new training videos. Anything that we can do to help, because I know it's a lot to take in, especially as someone that's just coming into the industry, right? And great. Any other questions? Yes?
So can this be used like as an overall construction management for a project, like package submittals, RFIs, document schedule, change orders, and payment requests?
I would say yes to most of that. I think, the way we're using it is to, yeah, it's bigger than BMPs, definitely, the ACC. So we're using it for, all of our drawings are in there, RFI submittals. For change orders, we are putting them in there as well, as far as filing them in there. And then you mentioned progress payments. That's something, so right now, progress payments are actually being done in Headlight. And I know it's wild to have two systems that you have to kind of understand how to use. But that is what we have in front of us right now. We are looking at trying to at least get progress payments into ACC. Yeah, and I think we're always looking at ways to streamline everything, including, yeah, all the things you mentioned. So, yeah, good question. Any others? Yes, sir.
What about discharge reports?
Discharge reports, I believe, because that's handled, through the permit, right, typically, or so I think discharge reports right now are not being done in the construction platform, at least that I'm aware of. Are you guys aware of it? Yeah, I don't think it's in there, so, that's a good question, though. I'll bring it up with the team and see if we can figure that one out too. Anybody else? Brave souls?